Okay. Oh, wait. Oh, hey, we're live.
We're
Hey,
live.
everybody. Welcome to Office Hours FM, episode number 75. I am your host, Carrie Dills, and I've got a very special couple with me today, Mark and Jessica benzakein.
Benzakein. Like the medication.
Benzakein. So I was
Yeah.
wrong on both counts, but
That's
I'm Texas. I pronounce things funny.
yeah. Jessica's from Texas too, and it took her I don't know how long to learn it too.
What part of Texas?
I grew up in El Paso, so just outside of Austin, Hill Country.
Okay. Well, there you have it. Okay, so we're going to be today's episode is going to be a little bit differently flavored than our usual office hours. Before we get into it, I would like to say hello, welcome to everybody that is tuning in live. If you want to ask questions, as always, if you're on Twitter, use the hashtag OfficeFM, and if you're watching this over on Google Plus, you can just ask via the Q&A app, and we'll go that way. Pardon me. Whew. Okay. Well, never mind. Okay. I just had to reel myself back in. We need a 30-second delay on this so that I can avoid sounding stupid. But it's too late. This is a live show, and it's out there. Okay. So, Mark, we have had you on the show before. You are the 1/3 or 1/2 for is the ServerPress team.
1/3 of the management and ownership of ServerPress. Correct. I'm the operations manager. Is my technical, I guess, title, but we don't really have titles in our company yet.
Well, titles can be overrated.
well, and nobody ever actually does what their title states anyway. So.
For those of you who do WordPress development and have not been over to serverpress.com, that is probably, I think, the de facto most favorite product, desktop server. So there you go, Mark. That was a free ad placement. Jessica, what is your, other than wrangling many children, which we'll talk about, what is your job that you're doing with all those monitors in your office?
I'm the operations manager for eCheckit. We're an ACH processing company, so we do electronic money transfers or debits, payroll, that kind of thing.
And have you always been able to office at home?
Since we moved to Wisconsin, so since 2004, been
awesome.
Telecommuting, so works out.
So you guys are in a really unique situation right now, where you've got your own children, you've got some foster kids, and then recently you've taken in a crowd of 4 more for a total of 9 children in your house. And so let's back up the story and go to, just by the way, happy anniversary. I was going to say, let's back up to where you met and married. Happy anniversary, and shout out to some other of my listeners. Stephanie and John had an anniversary this week, as well as Mike and Cheryl Gillihan. I don't know, September is a month of love. But okay, so y'all met, y'all got together, and then Jessica, I mean, this is my first time to get to visit with you, but I know that Mark is very big-hearted and always generally a pretty giving fellow. Was he always that way, or did you kind of have to train that into him?
Yeah. No, he was known as grumpy at his old job. He's very cynical. He was very cynical. He still tends to be cynical. So, and I don't know that he didn't want to help. He wanted to help. I don't think this was the path he would have chosen on his own. I think that I probably prodded him more than he would have liked initially. But once we had kids of our own, children of our own, then helping other children, he's a sucker. He can watch. If there's a show on TV and it involves a kid, he cries. Like, I look over and I'll be like, are you sniffling? It's got a kid. You know how I am. Like, so maybe all
Enough
of that
about
was
me.
lurking.
He's a big old softy.
All of that was probably lurking there, and I might have pushed it out a little more quickly than he was ready for.
Well, how does the dynamic of, I mean, Mark's running a company, you're both ops managers for your respective companies, and you've got a brood. How do you even manage these things?
Well, normal people start off by adding slowly to the brood. So and we did. So for the long time, we just had the 2 children, and we kind of worked that out. Like, how do we, do that? Once they become mobile, we realize that we need help. They either need to go to daycare or we have to get a babysitter. But when you started adding to that, daycare and babysitting just became more ineffective than it was for us. So we ended up going with, we have a day nanny who comes and she helps take care of the children. And Mark gets the better deal on that because he has the upstairs office. So
It's true. It's true. I've got the better deal.
So during the daytime, he tends to get far more work done than I do. But we just learned to utilize the time as best we can. When the children are napping, like, we're a beeline for our desks, and we just got more efficient. Like, I don't know how he manages to post on Facebook as much as he does during the day, but I'm far more streamlined. Like, I only have so much time. My office is right off the kitchen, so I cook dinner and I work and I wear a baby all at the same time. Like, you just learn to do it. I think women are just really good at that. Like, we figure out how to grow extra hands or make it work. So we just do.
Speaking of growing extra hands, I just want to warn anyone who's watching this that if a hand shoots out of your belly, don't be alarmed. There's a baby in a papoose wrapped in there. Yes, that did alarm me a little bit earlier. Okay, so Mark, what I just heard is Jessica's extremely streamlined and efficient, and you are pretty much checking Facebook all day.
Well, that's not entirely true. I only check it when the little notification thing comes up, and it's not as well. Okay, whatever she says. I'm not even going to argue with her. It's true, but it really is. I think the big factor is that, like she said, she's on the first floor, which is where the kids tend to spend their day, and so she does get interrupted far more during the day than I do. The truth of the matter is, you'll notice if you look at her and you look at me, her door is wide open, my door is shut. My door does stay shut a lot during the day, so and she's Superwoman. What else can I say? So.
Well, here's to Superwoman.
Yeah.
And you are. That's serious. Yeah. I'm doing all that. So let's go back. So you said that Mark didn't necessarily start out, wanting a ton of kids, but that's something that has changed in him over time. And I know that you've got quite a story to share, and that probably, or I'm guessing, directly impacts why it is that you have such a big heart for kids in need. Would you mind sharing with us?
Gosh, I don't know where to start. Basically, I went into foster care permanently at the age of 12. I was in and out up until 12. But 12 is when it was just in, no more out. And then I aged out of the system there in Texas. And so, and I knew when I went in at 12 that I would be in foster care till I aged out. They were very upfront about that. You're 12, not a lot of people are going to want a 12-year-old. And that was still in the day where they had, Wednesday's Child. It was a big news segment. They would highlight children who were older or special needs of some kind who maybe were having difficulty just getting adopted naturally. And I said, yeah, I don't need that. like, I just wanted to go to school. I was excited to go to school. I had not gone to school before and was so excited to go to this place where I thought, you know, it had to be just like a magical wonderland of an experience. So I aged out of foster care. It didn't bother me. I didn't care. I think I might have been the only foster child in my little tiny town. It didn't. If anybody else was a foster kid, they certainly didn't come up and say to me, "Hey, I'm a foster too," you know. And I didn't. That was okay. So then, when I went to college, that was the first time it occurred to me that I wasn't like the other kids, you know, not because I was red hair or different or wore glasses. It was the first time that it occurred to me that everybody else had families to go home to for spring break and Christmas break, which was a long break at my college, and they closed the campus up. Like, they chained the dorm rooms shut. And so, and I had no place to go, and I didn't, it was, you know, it really was. So I stayed on campus. I had to pay extra to stay on campus, and I thought, maybe that family thing's not such a bad thing after all. And so I've always thought about that. Mark and I got together. You know, he knew my story, you know, and I always thought, there are children, there are kids out there who are older. It's harder to place them. And the thing is, they don't realize until it's too late just how important being grounded, whether it's just a really good group of friends, whether it's a family that you choose to make your own, whether it's your own family that you were born into, but you have to be grounded, because otherwise you really do float along like a tumbleweed and you get snagged. And some of the things you get snagged on are not beneficial to your life. They don't make your life any better. A lot of times they make it worse. And so I just said, you know, if one day we decide, you know, we both make a choice and decide that foster care, we should consider older kids who don't, you know, who shouldn't go through life feeling like a tumbleweed. You just shouldn't.
That's some good terminology right there. Uh-oh, I'm in. Hold on one sec. I'm muting you, Mark. There we go. You can unmute yourself. Okay, so did I hear correctly that before the age of 12 you had not been to school?
No. Yeah, that is correct. I went like maybe a few weeks in kindergarten, and then I didn't really go again on a consistent basis until I was 12. My family from the South doesn't really believe in educating women, so I went to work with my mom. My mom worked in a nursing home as a nursing assistant, and I worked in the laundry room folding laundry. And my mom, and sometimes I mopped floors, and when there wasn't work to be done, I got to go hang out with a bunch of old people, which was awesome. It was like having 50 grandmas and grandpas, and that was great. But I can still remember seeing, like, I vividly remember mopping the floor in front of this big poster and thinking, wonder, that's like a colorful poster, and that was like the child labor law poster that said, like, you had to be of a certain age in order to work there, and if you were under this age, you had to. And it just didn't occur to me that that applied to me. So, so when I did go to foster families, various foster families, it was oftentimes in the summertime. And that was when my parents had a harder time keeping things together. So it was in the summertime. And then the few times that I did go during the school year, they deemed me to be antisocial because, well, first of all, I wasn't used to be around other children. I'd never been around children my age, and I wasn't used to. I had a younger brother, and so I never left his side. Things could happen. Things did happen, and so when I would go to these foster families, I would. If my brother went to school too, I insisted on going with him to his class, and so it wasn't until I was 12 that I got to, like, it was school, I'm going to go to school. And then I never missed a day. I was never sick. I didn't do senior skip day. I didn't understand. I thought people were so, like, you ungrateful little people, how could you not take this, privilege of school? And like, it was an awesome experience. I would have stayed in school forever because I just thought it was awesome.
Where do you think that, so coming from a family that didn't necessarily value education, where do you think that passion came from? Sorry, I muted you. Now I'll try to unmute you. Oh, you have to unmute yourself.
There. Am I talking? Okay.
Yep. Good.
I don't know. I don't remember learning to read. I remember reading to my brother all the time, but I don't remember how I learned to read. But I read a lot, like all kinds of books, lots of, your normal Little Women and Little House on the Prairie and all of those things. And so I knew that there was this other world out there. I didn't think I was lacking. I didn't think that. I just knew that these stories had to be based on some kind of other truth. And I didn't know how it was you got to that world. Did you get a golden ticket? Did you walk through a closet? How did you get there? But I had a feeling it was school. Because for me, that was I may as well have been the magical closet or a golden ticket. I had never experienced it. So for me, it was I just thought that was my way out, school. And so when I got there, I was like, I'm here, I'm going to do something. And so I really was, I did all my homework assignments. I probably was, I remember banging erasers just because I wanted to be closer to the teacher, thinking that some of that good stuff, whatever the good stuff was, would rub off on me. But yeah, I banged erasers, I did all that just because it was so exciting to be there.
Man, your teachers must have loved you.
They did. My fellow students, not so much.
Oh, so were you able to get then some scholarships into college, or did you bootstrap yourself?
I did. So I got a scholarship, a teaching scholarship. It wasn't a lot, but I did. And then I was fortunate enough that because I did want to be adopted, and because I was really serious about school and good at it. That's the other. I was just really good at it. I had a good caseworker in state foster care who said, "We need to do something for you. Let's apply to a private foster care program in Texas called Casey Family Foundation. And if we do that and you get in, they'll pay for your college, anything that you're lacking." Whereas state foster care does not do that. Once you're 18, they say bye. Good luck to you. So I did get into Casey Family, and I qualified for that. And so I switched over to private foster care, and then they paid for my schooling, whatever I was lacking. They paid for, which was amazing. So I went to a private college and then totally flunked out. But otherwise, it was awesome.
Oops, sorry for the awkward muting and unmuting today. Okay, so then did you meet Mark in college, or what was the next step after you graduated?
I didn't graduate college. I completely flunked out of college. So by the second semester, I graduated third in my high school class, but by the second semester of college, I was on an academic probation.
Wow, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. Well, I was really good at the schoolwork stuff, but I had not been trained at the social aspect. So in high school, I did not date. I did not go out. I did not socialize. My foster mother was if it wasn't a school function, you just didn't do it. So I didn't know. At college, there was no curfew. There was nobody waking you up saying you had to go to class. There was no, and suddenly there were boys who were like, "Hey, you want to go dancing?" "Yeah, I do," And so I just hadn't been trained on how to handle social pressures, which I think happens to a lot more children today, where I think parents who meanwhile raise their kids in these little bubbles, we'll keep you home and we'll protect you, but you've got to give them room to make those mistakes, because otherwise they go to college and they're bigger mistakes because it's a bigger field that they're playing there than just little high school. So no, it was 10 years later. 10 years later, I was 26 when I met Mark.
Okay, so you didn't finish college. What job did you? Give me your kind of career path to flunking out of college to being very successful at what you're presently doing.
Yeah, I worked for an ophthalmologist for a while. Then I worked at Walmart for a while. Then I moved into insurance. I always had to do with math. Math is my least favorite subject, but apparently it's the one I'm the best at. English was my favorite subject. Math is the one that I just get stuck doing. So I moved into insurance. I did commissions. I paid commissions and stuff. And then I moved into ACH, and I've been doing that since 2003. So if it's math, that somehow sticks itself to me, and I get stuck doing it.
Well, clearly you're a hustler, or a very self-motivated individual to be able to do those things without the support of family behind you.
Well,
we use the term practical in this house.
Yeah,
He's very practical.
I'm very practical. Yeah. So yeah, I'm even as a kid, I didn't depend on others, and I knew that there was no. People were just unpredictable, which made them undependable by nature. Like, if I can't predict your behavior and be at least 98% accurate every time, I can't depend on that. So I just learned early on that if I needed to do something, then I needed to do it. And I've made mistakes, and I've done things that I probably shouldn't have, but those are on me. So I take, it wasn't because of some other reason. I just decided that I had to be that person that does what they say they're going to do, or just doesn't do it, one or the other. So.
Well, I think it's interesting. You see people online, or they look like they've got their act together. I mean, you guys have been married for what is it, 12 years?
Yeah.
You've both got great jobs, successful companies, and I think it's easy to make assumptions about maybe that certain people have it easy, or that everything in their life is picture perfect. But I think that that's true of probably no one. Probably
right.
The people that look the most perfect have the most crap going on behind the scenes. But yeah, I just find I like hearing your story, and how the two of you are able to do what you do in business while also focusing so full-heartedly, if you will, on family. And
for us, it's a good trade-off. So we work as a good team. So like, I am the practical one. So I am very black and white. At 8 o'clock we do this, at 3 o'clock we do this, at 5 o'clock. Like, I'm a routine person, and I stick really good to it. Whereas Mark is far more loosey-goosey, and he's the fun parent. So and the kids know that. Like, so they know, if they want to just goof off, they'll go find Dad. If they have an owie or something serious, then they'll come to, although our 10-year-old boys now go to Dad because Dad, is a guy. They figured out he's a dude, and they're dudes, and so they go to each other. But it's a good trade-off. So we do like, hey, I'm going to take the morning half to do my work. You get the afternoon half with the kids. And it wouldn't work if we couldn't trade off like that. If we couldn't say, tag, you're in. It's your turn in the ring now while I step out to go do whatever. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. I don't know how we could make it work if we weren't able to just somehow coordinate between the two of us. And a lot of times, it really is, it's just a look or a grunt, or and the other person steps in and says so.
The beauty of knowing each other well, it just takes a simple grunt to to move to action. Okay, so you started a project. You're living in a 100-year-old house. up in Milwaukee. Is it Milwaukee, or are you in the burbs? Or
Milwaukee proper.
okay, Milwaukee proper. I have yet to be there. For some reason, I saw Rhinelander on one of your profiles, and
Yeah, we lived when we first moved to Wisconsin. We moved way up north, like 4 hours north, and we were closer to Canada than we were to anything else. So we stayed there for as long as I think we could humanly take it, and then decided absolutely not. Like, we have to move. So we then moved south. We were trying to get to warmer climates. We got as far as Milwaukee. Texas is too hot for Mark. California is too expensive. Milwaukee seemed to be a good sort of compromise. So.
Excellent. Well, so y'all are in this. I said Rhinelander because I actually spent a summer in Minocqua once, which is just right around the corner there. My memories of Rhinelander involve seeing teenage boys shoot potatoes out of large potato launchers.
Yeah, that sounds about right. You probably had a festival around that or something. Yeah.
Could have been. I didn't quite know what to make of it. I was just proud to see the big city after being in Minocqua for a while. Okay, so you guys are in an older home, and obviously you've expanded your family. You've got 2 that are your own, and then the 3 fosters. Are they permanently placed with you guys, or is that?
Right. They were never actually in the foster care system. So their mother came directly to us. And asked us to take care of them, and so we have legal guardianship of them until they're 18 or until she petitions to get custody back.
And how the mother, is she someone that you had already had a previous relationship with, or?
Not really. She her oldest is the same age as our son, and they were in the same classroom together. They were both new to the school at the same year, so. They became friends. He had a lot of sleepovers with us, and then the summer between my son's 3rd and 4th grade year, that's when Mom reached out and said, "Hey," we'd never met her. Mark had met her, I think, once or twice, but she had never said anything more than hi, and told the child to come on in. So she'd never been to our house, never met me at all, except for the first time that she gave me her 3-month-old baby. And said, "Hi, my name's Jessica." She said, "Here's the baby. He had a bottle a little bit ago." Okay,
Wow.
She was just in a bad place. She was not. She was homeless, but still had shelter. So she had friends' sofas that she would stay on or whatever, and she had 4 children in very close proximity, and I think she was just lost and she needed help, and so we took the children, and then it looked like it was going to take Mom a little longer to get things sorted than she thought. So we said, "Hey, the kids we can't just freeze time, stop time. We have to, so let us just continue on taking care of them, and you go get whatever you need done." And that's been a year now. So we've had them a year. So.
Okay, so that prompted the attic campaign of adding on to this house, and basically just, to create rooms, better sleeping arrangements.
The house was always built as a duplex, and has always been a duplex. We turned it into a single-family home. So each level had 3 bedrooms on it. We took out 1 on the main level in order to make a bigger living room, and then 2 rooms are used by us as offices. So that really only left 3 bedrooms and 5 people, at the time it was only going to be 4. Then we added now we had 3 more kids. We had 5 kids and 2 adults. So upstairs we sleep in what's known as the dining room. That's what it was. It has no doors. It's just an open dining room. So we thought, privacy might be a better thing, and but we still, even though we got the three boys, we still knew that we were going to get a sibling set from the foster system. Children who were already in the system, who already had their parental rights terminated. So they're now just wards of the state. And that's just an awful position to be in. And we knew it would be a sibling set. It's really hard to keep siblings together. The older they are, a lot of times the siblings get separated. And so, but we need actual bedrooms, and there's foster guidelines. Like, in order to get these children, there were specific things we had to have. So we needed the attic space. We could make our layout work to accommodate everybody.
So while you're building this attic, along comes a woman whose car breaks down in an alley nearby, and the story sort of repeats itself of a mother that's with 4 kids and not able, I mean, just at her end and needing help. Mark, or either one of you kind of take over from there.
Well, I guess since that part of it happened to me, I guess I'll tell the story. I was walking our dog, and right around the corner, there was a lady trying to start her car. I didn't know who was. I couldn't see who the driver was. But since our dog is a great big Doberman, I didn't want to scare them. So I finished walking the dog and had decided that I would go offer help if she was still there when I came back. And so when I came back, I put the dog up, and there she was. And so I went and I talked to her and got the whole story. And it turned out that her car, I had, with my amateurish mechanical hat on, had determined that she needed a new fuel pump and that she wasn't going anywhere. So helped push her car down the street and parked it on the street. And at the time, all I saw in the front seat was this infant baby boy, who I thought had to be premature for sure. And I told her, I said, you can't be out here. And she says, well, I've got 3 more in the back seat. And I said, what? And sure enough, I looked in the back seat, and there they were, huddled, 2 of which were under blankets completely, which is why I couldn't see them. And so they popped their heads up, and I'm like, oh my goodness, she's driving around with these 4 kids. And she says, I spent the night in the alley. I'm homeless. She says, your alley is well lit, and so I thought this would be a safe place to sleep last night. And so I said, okay, let me see what kind of help I can get. And really, my original intent was just to see what we could do to get her on the road. But after talking to her, I said, why don't you come to the house, and my wife will take care of you guys and take care of the kids and make sure that you guys get some food and some formula for the baby and whatnot. And we'll see if we can come up with a game plan here to get you some help. I said, do you have anybody, any family you can call or anything? And she says, no, I don't have anybody. And it turned out, after we got back to the house, it turned out within 10 minutes, we explained to her that Jessica had grown up in foster care, and she said, the mother said, well, I grew up in foster care too. She says, I aged out of the system as well, and I don't really have anybody. And so I'll let Jessica take over from here, because at that point I spent the rest of my day trying to get the car situation taken care of and whatnot, and she and the kids ended up at the house, and Jessica dealt a lot with that. So I'll let Jessica kind of fill you in on what happened after that.
Well, I'll condense it. We just called. I made calls. She made calls. We tried to contact shelters to get her in, but there's not a lot of shelters that can take in 5 people. The shelters aren't really designed for full-on families. A lot of times that they get split up. Men go to one shelter, women go to another, and children go wherever they can find a home, and if that's relatives, or if that's with a shelter, or if that's in protective custody, that's what happens. But she's young, and she didn't really know what to do, so we made calls. We couldn't find anything. She didn't, so I stood on the street next to her car, and I told her she had to make some tough choices. Go to a shelter as a single person and voluntarily put her children in foster care so that they could be adequately homed while she worked on getting whatever she needed to do, or find family or friends who are willing to take them so that she could, maybe she and the baby could go to a shelter and family might take the other 3. When I said family or friends, I guess she opted, we were friends. Like we suddenly became friends because that's what happened. I said, in the meantime, we can put you in a hotel for a week and you can continue making calls. All the shelters said to call every day at like 8 in the morning to see if there's a placement. So I said, we'll put you in a hotel for a week. You can take some of the kids, all of the kids, a couple of the kids, or none if you just want to take the night to just sleep. Just go and sleep and we'll watch the kids. And then and that's what she did. So she opted to just go to the hotel and we kept the kids, and we got her car, you know, fixed, and thanks to everybody who donated money, we were able to afford the repairs and afford the hotel, and she had a number of parking tickets, and you know, just a lot of, when things are down, they just kind of snowball for you, and that's kind of how they happened for her. And she didn't know where to start, and she admits, she said from the beginning, I don't know how to parent. She didn't know her child needed to eat every 2 hours. She didn't know that, you know, how to find a place for them to stay. She didn't. But a week has now turned into 18 days. We've had the children 18 days, and mom's having to make some tough choices. So she has until next Friday to kind of figure out what she's going to do. And someone said, you know, and she said, you know, I don't want to put my kids into foster care. And I had to tell her, nobody does. Like nobody says, hey, like, you know, nobody wants to be homeless. I think today I'm just gonna go start living in my car. I mean, most normal people don't choose that as their route. So sometimes the tougher decision is to put your pride aside and say, it's not what I want, but it might be what is best. And in this case, it might be what's best for these children, so that mom can focus fully on getting adequate housing, getting to and from work, and not have to. It's really hard. It's hard for us, and we are as normal as I think, you know, you can get. It's hard for us when we have some days when we just have 2 or 5 or 9. I mean, it's hard for us to function without assistance. We have a nanny. We have friends who offer to, you know, provide things for us. And if you have no one, it's even harder and lots more depressing. And that's just kind of where she's at. So hopefully by Friday she'll have made some decisions about how she wants her life to go, and their life, you know.
Well, what an amazing relief for her to encounter you guys, or people with your kindness. And the WordPress community, I think, has always been incredibly generous when it comes to, you know, somebody has some troubles and starts up a tilt or whatnot. And I know you guys did a tilt campaign on the attic. And then, Mark, you put out the word via your blog at 2to5.us or .us about you know, raising money to cover what's all of a sudden some very random expenses from paying this woman's parking tickets to you know, feeding and clothing her children, etc. I just think it's amazing. I mean, we can get wrapped up in WP drama and code and all of those sorts of things, but at the end of the day, it's really incredible to see that level of community.
Well, and it's one of the things that I just really appreciate about the WordPress community. It's like probably my favorite thing is that they rally together to lift other people up. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm not part of it, normally. But it is nice to see how, I won't say that there are no egos, but egos are very quickly set aside when there's an opportunity to do whatever you can to make someone else's life better. And it's really refreshing to see people just jump in and say, what can I do? Okay, I'll do it, even if it's the smallest. Sometimes money contributions is all someone can do. That's all they feel they can do. They're like, no, I am not going to watch your 9 kids for any amount of time. And no, but you know what? I will give you $5. You know what? $5, awesome. Like, you know, it's really nice, especially, you know, so I think it's admirable how the WordPress community really embraces the community part of it. It's not just lip service.
Yeah, it's you know, it occurs to me that, oh, Jessica, will you mute yourself? Or maybe Mark mute. I think there's some feedback going on some of these speakers.
Yeah, I think it's Jessica's speakers. There we go.
Oh, wow. Well, we should just let you talk, and we won't talk ourselves. But I mean, it's entirely possible that there are people that, you know, listening to this show that are homeless or living out of you know, couch surfing and living off the generosity of their friends and family. How do you, I guess, well, maybe I shouldn't talk about him because he's not on the show. But I know there is one. Actually, I think he said it publicly. Dan Griffiths, and I'll get the link to post it in the show notes later. But he works now for Easy Digital Downloads, and he actually was homeless. And, you know, long story short, through WordPress and learning WordPress and being able to take on projects, has established, you know, himself and provided for himself. And I think it's amazing. I don't know, the ability to take a technology and, of course, make a living with it, but then on the flip side of it, to have this this wonderful community to be a part of. I don't know. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed today. Y'all want to talk?
Oh, I just muted myself when I thought I was unmuting myself. Well, you know, I just think it's a matter of we all do what we can. And Dan is a great guy, actually, and he's probably become one of the. What's interesting about him is, you know, he has quite a military career. If I remember right, he told me he had. He did 5 tours before he needed to leave the Marines, and coding was not really in his. You know, in his skill set, and here he is, kind of. But what's cool about Dan is not only is the community giving a lot to him, but what makes community work, and what makes the WordPress community work, is the fact that he has given so much back. In fact, I talk to Dan pretty regularly, and have had him look at some code and some things like that. And, you know, he's a really sharp guy. There's a reason he works for Pippin. I mean, you know, so yeah. It's really overwhelming, and you know, I just want to say that I think between the Attic campaign and the money we raised for the homeless woman, I think we took in over $10,000. So, and that's, I would say, I haven't really crunched the numbers, but I would say 95% of that was WordPress community donations. So. You know, that's pretty impressive, and I've seen the generosity of the WordPress community beyond just us. I see it all the time. There's, you know, it seems like you'll see that there's just an outpouring of support, and sometimes it's just time, sometimes it's just, you know, some effort and some elbow grease or something like that. But there's always, it's amazing anytime, you know, I've brought up that we're doing this or that. It's amazing the number of people that have contacted me that have said, you know what, I don't have any money, but I can do this for you. I had a friend who I met through the WordPress community who said, you know what, I'm in Chicago, I'll come up and sit for you guys one night just so you guys can go out and have some fun if you ever need a night to do that. Chicago's about an hour and a half away from here without traffic. So, you know, that's pretty amazing that people, I value people's time almost more than I value their money sometimes, because clearly with us, with time being something that we have to keep very close track of, it's a very valuable thing when other people offer it to us as well.
No doubt. It's for me, it's easier to give a $5 bill than to commit my time to something else. And it's, I mean, ultimately, it's kind of selfish. Y'all are better humans than me. It's just, there's no doubt.
No. This is not a contest. The thing is,
No,
it's, you know, I think that if I had tried to do this 20 years ago, I probably would have either shot myself in the head or shot someone else, you know, to be honest. I mean, it's something that I think that in my advanced age, I am much better to handle. I'm in a much better mental place, and you know, it's kind of like if you're doing what you feel like you're kind of put on earth to do, it doesn't bother you as much, and it's not as stressful. And not everybody is put on earth, you know, to parent, and not everybody is put on earth to take in homeless people or whatever. And you know, I kind of feel like at this point in our life, it seems to be like, you know, within the last year, we've either become a magnet or something, but something is saying, hey, this is, you know, this is where you need to be right now. And like Jessica says, I am a sucker for a kid's story. She'll tell you, if there's a murder show on, if a kid gets murdered within the first 5 minutes, I will get up and walk out of the room and turn off the TV. I just will not watch a child being abused. I will not. Okay, your turn to talk, Jessica.
He's getting weepy.
Stop it.
Yeah. So, you know, I just think that if everybody says, even the social worker who came out was like, what angels? You're angels. Nobody I know would do this, do these kinds of things. And maybe that's true. But I don't think that we are the exception. I think that if everybody just tried to do whatever little bit they could do that day, just that day, whether it's your time, whether it's your money, whether it's just smiling at somebody else as you walk past them. You know, in Texas, we're known for the, you know, hand on our steering wheel, fingers up, sort of high, kind of thing. If people just did that more, what little they could do every day to as many people as they could, and we all just sort of adopted that, I think that, you know, we wouldn't have these problems. We wouldn't have people ashamed of where they're at, so they're hiding in their car behind somebody else's garage. They would just be able to reach out without fear that someone's going to just suddenly snatch their kids and go off, which is what her fear was. Or people wouldn't be so afraid to say, I need help, before it got so bad that they didn't know where to reach out to, because people, you know, it's hard to ask for help. It's hard to tell somebody else that you're not making it, that you're failing, that you didn't live up to whatever, because people are judgy and can be very mean. But I think most of us want to do something. We just don't know where, how, what. So just do those little things, you know. Say hi, smile, take somebody's shopping cart. If you're going into a store and someone's loading their groceries, say, hey, I'll take that cart. I mean, those are little things, but they go a long way to making you feel better and to making someone else feel better.
Thank you for that. That's a great reminder. There's a little quote, or I'll probably misquote it, but it basically says, always be a little extra kind, because you never know what someone is dealing with. You know, you never know who's on the other end of that steering wheel wave, or what their earlier today I was riding my bike, and I was you know, I was passing houses, and for some reason I just got to thinking, you know, every one of these houses, whoever's living there, they got some shit going on, and just I don't know. It's just sort of a strange thought of getting outside of my own bubble, and having my eyes open to needs of people around me. But so this is. I wasn't kidding, listeners, when I said that this would be a really unique episode. So we have not had questions from our listeners, but have had some good comments that just enjoying the honesty and authenticity and warmth, and you guys sharing your story. So thank you very much for that. Before we wrap up, have I missed anything? Is there anything that you want? I mean, this is your platform. I've got millions of listeners. That was a joke.
Okay.
I don't really but this is your opportunity to say what you would love to say.
Okay, so here's the thing, and it may just be me, but I love hearing this story. I'd love to hear Jessica tell the chocolate cake lady story, because to me, that wraps up kind of what being a foster parent is about. And tell it before I start to break into tears thinking about it.
Okay, so a lot of times, I'm going to turn the baby monitor off. Hold on just a minute.
I can't tell it as well as she does, and she did write about it. It's actually on the blog, but it's a really, I find it to be a moving story.
Oh, she's back with the baby.
So I was not a trusting child. So I was an older child. I have one sibling, and it was my job to take care of him. And so my brother and I lived like mice. So when it was dark, that's oftentimes when we came out. It was safe-ish. People were usually sleeping. We were scavengers. We didn't have a lot of food. So I had no problem. I've eaten out of a dumpster before. I've eaten food that people gave me. That, and I did whatever it needed to do to take care of my brother. So my brother was 16 months younger than me, and so that was just my job. So one of the first memories I have of foster care, of going into a foster home, was at an elderly, it was an emergency basis. So emergency foster care is typically short-term. They just placing you there because they pulled you perhaps in the middle of the night or right from school, and they hadn't found yet a home, a family to place you with. So you go stay at an emergency home, who's really, you could be there for a few hours, you could be there for a day or two. So we went to go stay with a woman who later became known as the chocolate cake lady. I don't know her name. I just know she had a gray bun, and she had this house that was right out of Alice in Wonderland. Like, in her backyard, there was croquet. We played croquet in her backyard. But she didn't talk to us. If she did, I don't recall. And we didn't talk to her. We didn't look at her. We were, like I said, little mice just scurrying along. And she understood that. She didn't press us. We slept in twin beds in the same room. And every night there was a train whistle that would blow, and a train that would go through, I don't know how close or not, but it always woke us up. And scavengers that we were hungry, and we didn't know how long we were going to be there, and now was an opportunity to get food. So we would leave in our room and tiptoe out to the kitchen where we were going to look for food because we were so starving. And first night, there was 2 pieces of chocolate cake sitting on a plate, 2 glasses of milk sitting there by each plate, 2 forks, nothing else. My brother and I, we looked around. It didn't seem like it was going to be a trap. We made sure there was nothing, like no tarps were going to fall. And I mean, we didn't even use the forks. We just shoved cake in our face and drank the milk as fast as we could and ran back to our room. Fell asleep with, I'm sure, icing and stuff on our face. The next morning, we woke up. I knew for sure we were going to be in trouble. I was prepared to take that, to save my brother, and we went out there for breakfast. Never mentioned it. Didn't say anything about our face, didn't say anything about the cake. The dishes were all cleaned up and gone. It was as if it had never happened. I almost thought maybe it didn't happen. Maybe I had just dreamed all that. That next night, the train whistle blew. We went out to the kitchen to look for more food because we were so starved. We really were so starved. And there again were 2 pieces of chocolate cake, 2 glasses of milk, and this time we ate it a little slower. I don't think we used a fork, but we did eat a little slower before we scurried back. And that went on probably 3 or 4 days, however long we were there. There was always chocolate cake out and 2 glasses of milk, and she never said anything. We didn't get in trouble. There was never any, you know, not even passive-aggressive, hey, hoped you liked that cake last night, nothing. She didn't speak of it, we didn't speak of it. But it was the very first time later, when I was reflecting as a 20-something, it was the first time I recall that people can be genuinely nice and not have strings attached. Because I had not found that to be the norm. In most cases, if people were nice to you for any reason, there was a string attached. You owed them something. And for me, a lot of times it wasn't pretty. Whatever I owed them was far worse than what I felt the cost should have been. But, you know, so she was it. She was the first time that I learned that you can be nice and it can be unconditional love. She didn't have to do that. All she had to do was provide a safe home, safe place, food to eat. But she went above and beyond, and it stuck with me, where I thought, you can be nice. You can love somebody without getting anything. I never even said thank you to her. She never even got a thank you from me. And now, I mean, she was ancient. She was probably in her 40s, but she was ancient when I was a little kid. You know, so I wouldn't know how to find her now if I couldn't, but I remember, and I thought, for kids who were scared, who already knew not to trust people, she was the very first time, and that's what we want to be for other people. And I've always been that. I mean, I always think of that every time we help somebody. We don't keep tabs. We don't keep a tally. I don't say, you know, well, that person knows me because I helped them. That person. Because of her, I realized that you can do things unconditionally, and I wanted more of that. I mean, you asked how is it that it was instances like those where I thought life could be different, people could be different, and I chose to believe that those were not the exceptions, that all the people I had encountered were the exceptions, and I was living in a really bad Twilight version of exceptions, and there were normal people out there who did wonderful things and didn't expect you to pay them back or do things for them in return. They just did it because that's what nice people do. I'm sure it's better written on my blog, but
no,
that's the chocolate cake lady. So.
You said it beautifully. That's a very sweet story. I appreciate you sharing that, and I can see why Mark might get a little teary at the telling. Goodness. Okay, so you're Jessica. Do you also blog at 2to5.us, or are you blogging on a?
No, again, he gets it good because he's got that second floor office, so I don't have nearly as much time as he does to blog. He used to blog a lot at deliberatelegacies.com. So Deliberate Legacies was just how I felt. I think people, whether they have horrible childhoods or not, people sometimes feel like they are just a product of wherever they come from, wherever they were raised, whatever their parents believed, where they went to school, whatever. You are a product of. And that's all you have to pass on. And I don't believe that. I just don't. I think you make your legacy. You can be very deliberate about the kind of legacy you want to leave, and it doesn't have to be what others forced on you or what you were born into, or you can remake yourself, and you can be very deliberate about the legacy you leave, whether it's for your kids, whether it's for the world, whether you can be very deliberate. And I think if more people realized that it was okay to be deliberate about the legacies they leave, they wouldn't be so hung up on trying to be versions of other people or their mom or their dad or whoever that they feel like they have to be because that's the legacy they were left.
Well, I can't put a bow on it any more nicely than you just did. Be purposeful about leaving a legacy and be kind. Very inspiring. I very much appreciate you sharing your story. So do check out, for the folks tuning in, do check out their blog and investigate their story even further. You can stalk them more is basically how I like to say. Just don't show up on the front door unless you're bringing groceries.
Or more kids.
Or more kids. That yeah. Although you may be at complete capacity. Yeah. If you were listening today and you think that this particular episode, if someone would benefit from hearing Jessica's story, I would encourage you to share that with them. All right. Well, we're gonna wrap this up here, but benzakeins. Just appreciate your coming on today, Jessica. Very lovely to meet you. I mean, as in person as we get until we meet at a word camp. But yeah, you can, if you want to stay in touch, you can review this episode over at officehours.fm, or you can catch the replay over on our YouTube channel. And if you want to receive email reminders about each week's episode, just go to officehours.fm/subscribe. And with that, we will sign off. Thank you very much. Do you guys want to say your final goodbyes?
Thank you for having us on, Carrie.
My pleasure. Bye.
Bye.